have put 280,000 teachers back into the classroom. Now, if you happen to be a second grader and you're not getting what you need to learn, then that's going to carry on through the remaining years of your schooling. And so 280,000 teachers could have been brought back into the classroom had the Affordable Health Care, the American Jobs Act passed. Mr. Tonko?
Yes, they are both significant bits of legislation, so it's good to interlace the American Jobs Act and the Affordable Care Act. To the 280,000 teachers, you know, I think it's very easy to state that the human infrastructure in our school systems across this nation are a critical component to quality education. That personal relationship of students to teacher, the exercise of self-discovery. Who am I? What are my gifts? What are my talents? What are my passions? That is exercised in the classroom. That is a spirit that prevails. It's a magic that happens in the classroom, and that sense of self-discovery. You know, part of our goal here is not only to enable these students to understand who they are, to draw forth the soul of the individual, it's to provide the opportunity for our workforce of the future. That fourth grader, hypothetically, that was impacted by class size or the lack of a teacher for certain subject areas, that's something that child will never gain again. What you lose in that given year is lost throughout the development. And it is important for us to make certain that every bit of opportunity, every bit of learning experience is granted our children so that they understand where they can best contribute to society, where their gifts can be utilized. And it's part of that development of the workforce of the future, the workforce of the present, training, retraining dollars that are part of the American Jobs Act. Absolutely a critical piece of the infrastructure. And the tens of thousands, this chart will say retain thousands of police officers and firefighters. We know it's tens of thousands across this nation. An element of public safety, a quality of life component, making certain that our core communities have the given workforce of firefighters, of police officers that will enable us to respond to public safety measures. These are a core bit of principle, along with veterans that would be hired with benefits that are significant. That element was done under pressure, under scrutiny, under growing public sentiment. But think of what could happen if we did all of these and did even additional services with our veterans who are returning home and are in need of employment. These are the factors, these are the dynamics that are introduced through AJA, the American Jobs Act, that would allow for the deficit to be addressed and at the same time to have services responded to, essential services. You know, it's all we've talked about, the belt tightening, addressing waste and inefficiency and outmoded programs and fraud. And after we capture those savings from that exercise, it's important, I believe, to slide that into an investment zone so that the result is cut where you can so as to invest where we must. The investment, absolutely critical. The investment in jobs, the investment in teachers, firefighters, public safety elements, our police officers, our veterans community, and items like an infrastructure bank bill, an infrastructure that we'll talk about in the remaining minutes of this special order.
Well, let me just pick up a little more on the education. The most important investment any society will ever make is the education of their children and the re-education of their workforce. In the American Jobs Act, there is the 280,000 teachers that would have been in the classroom this entire year. They're not there today because there's been no movement on this floor to even debate in committee, let alone take up for a vote on this floor the American Jobs Act. Also, many of the schools across America are run down. Their laboratories, their classrooms are antiquated. They don't have air conditioning. Many, many other problems. The American Jobs Act provided money for 35,000 schools across the United States to be upgraded, to be rehabilitated, so that 250,000 jobs would have been created right there. Before we go any further, I know, you're all worried, oh, it's going to increase the deficit. The American Jobs Act would increase the deficit. No, it would not. Mr. Tonko, you spoke earlier about when people go to work, the economy gets going, money is circulated, taxes are paid. The other part of it is the American Jobs Act was fully paid for by ending unnecessary tax subsidies to companies that don't need it, specifically the oil industry. The wealthiest industry in the world would lose its tax breaks that amount to over $16 billion, and that money would come back to pay